This is the biggest story coming out of the Bassmaster Elite Event at Smith Lake that is not being talked about enough. So to lay this out for you guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly preview what I'm talking about here, and then I'm actually going to insert a segment that we did Tuesday night. We had our live show with Carl Jacobson. We talked about all of this stuff, and Carl gave a great download of the story, what happened, and helped tell the exact story that needs to be told more and more people need to hear about, because he's doing an amazing thing right now in the Elite Series with the Fear My Heart incentive that's really spreading a lot of good. There's a lot of negative, a lot of hate right now in the fishing industry, and Carl is leading the way for positivity. And each winner from each event, there's multiple people being submitted, but each winner has an incredible story that are doing a lot of good. The right people that are fighting the good fight of trying to remember and remind people that fishing's fun. We're here because we love the sport. We're here because of a fish. There's no room for the negativity. So without further ado, let me just play this clip from Carl. And I really want you guys to listen close because there's a lot to be taken from this. Appreciate you guys. Check it down below if you want to listen to the full podcast that we had. Speaking on G-Man with the Fear My Heart incentive, dude, that was one. I was watching that weigh in live, and that was one of the coolest freaking things, man.
Gives you the
So walk us through that. I mean, obviously, G-Man, I feel like these kind of things you see out of him almost every event. I mean, to your point, he could win at every single event.
Yeah.
Gerald being Gerald, but walk us through, what the reason was for giving him that, for anybody that wasn't tuning into the event, why he won the Fear My Heart incentive for Smith.
Yep. So G-Man won the $1,000 Fear My Heart incentive, and he come in on day 2, and he had a little bit better day, but he knew he was going to be on the cut line, but he kind of knew he was probably going to be outside the cut. And for the general public, if you don't know, like when you're out in the back and everyone's catching him, and especially for G-Man, that's his local lake that he has lived there. Like he feels like, would have felt like that's his opportunity to win. And so for him to like have a couple tough days, he's out the back, guys have caught him. And so it's not as simple as a lot of people think. We are hurting out the back. We don't want to, when you're having that, it's as tough as any like high competitive sport. The last thing you want to do is like put on a brave face. It's really tough to do. Mm-hmm. And for G-Man to sort of like, you all get a wake up call, because you end up realizing that you're doing something that you love and you're getting to fish for a living. And then when you run into this kid, Aiden, who is fighting cancer at 13 years old and has had chemo, and is fighting these battles, but is just so stoked to be there and can't believe that he's going to get to meet his hero and Gerald, it really snaps you out of it very fast. And G-Man spoke about that because he had to put on that brave face, and he did. And he just does such a good job with his fans and anyone that gets around him. You would never know. And most people don't know that when you go to his camper or he's at his boat, it's one after the other. People are looking for him, finding him. They'll knock on his camper door at night. Like he gets a lot of pressure from a lot of people because people just love him. He's at the pinnacle of the sport as far as fans go. But that's tough to deal with when you're trying to compete and you're trying to keep your head in the game of this. You've got a job, and he's got sponsors, and he wants to be competitive. And so he could just win it every time for all of the things that he constantly does. At Murray, I had a guy come up to me and say that he had this special needs kid, and he wasn't even a fisherman. He was camping at the campground, and his son was special needs, and he was a handful. His dad said, "My son's a handful." He was walking over to G-Man's boat and picking up rods and saying, doing all these things. And G-Man, and he said he's not comfortable around people because he knows he was different, but G-Man treated him so well that he felt comfortable around G-Man, and he did all of these things for him. And he said, and he found me, this guy, and said, I looked into the fishing, and I saw this thing you've got going. And he's like, I want to put the vote in for that guy. He wasn't even a fisherman. He'd found like our Fear My Heart incentive through being a camper at the campground, saw how G-Man had treated his son, and then put it in saying, I think he should get it. That was at Murray. And so fast forward to here, Aiden, he's 13 years old. He's fighting an incurable cancer that is I think it's behind his eye. And he's already had chemo. And through Dan O'Sullivan, he just is a huge fan of G-Man's and wanted to meet him. Dan asked G-Man, he said, come on, bring him on. And instead of anyone else could have went and shook his hand and said, hey, mate, met him and continued on with his day. No, G-Man gets him, brings him through the whole weigh-in line process, brings him up on stage, gets to hold the spotted bass up with him. And G-Man doesn't talk about his tough day, his missing the cut. It's all about Aiden. And so when I rang him and said that I knew what he was going to do, but said want to give the $1,000 to G-Man for that, and then G-Man wanted to give the $1,000 to Aiden. So that's as good as you get.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, you want to talk about what your Fear My Heart incentive embodies? I feel like that's it.
Yeah, that's the pinnacle right there. Is as good as it gets. So yeah.
Well, I think in that too, like there's a double winner here. Like I think obviously from our eyes, you see the story of G-Man being G-Man, who we've seen him do countless times. Obviously, you've seen way more behind the scenes, but as a fan perspective, Andy and I see it all the time with people that love Gerald. Like my first ever classic I went to, one of my biggest takeaways was watching weigh-ins, the amount of people that stood up when they knew Gerald was coming on stage and would leave when he was done.
Yeah.
And it was they were just there for him.
Yeah.
But like, so obviously like him winning that for what he did there is incredible. But also Aiden being also like a Fear My Heart winner for that event. Like he's and not even that event. Like he is Fear My Heart. So I think
exactly.
It speaks loud, dude. I award or not, what you're doing with this is incredible, which is why I've been the annoyance in your talking to you about, dude, I want to talk about these stories on the show, because I think with all this negative crap, like this is the stuff that's awesome to share, that needs to be shared more. More people need to listen to, because there's a lot of people like yourselves that are going out there doing good things like this. Deserves to be told.
There's tons of it, and I wanted to put it in that post that I wrote, but I didn't want to take away from G-Man or Aiden. But I was like, you can find negative stuff as easy as you want, and you can also look for it, and you will find it, and it will find you. You can do the same amount of effort and look for the positive things, but you're not. No one is. They're clicking on the podcast that have the clickbait, that has the story that they want to see, that's going to be about this guy and about this negative thing and about that. And so you're feeding it yourself because you're actually looking for it. And you can do the exact same thing. When people complain about Instagram, I don't know what they're talking about, because my Instagram is full of savages, inspirational people. All I do is look at it and I'm like, I need to go for a run. I need to be on the water more. I need to compete more. I have no ill feeling on Instagram at all, because everyone I follow is positive and getting after it, and there's zero negativity. And if I see it, I get rid of it. And so I just think everyone in a whole has to do a better job at actually seeking. It's because you have to seek it out, even though it is there in front of us. We just have to do we do a really good job of seeking out the most negative thing, because it sells, it's going to get views, it's going to get clicks. So we're chasing it. Why couldn't we do the exact same thing and seek out and look for the most best positive stories out there? They only come to light when they're right in front of us and we're like, oh, that was really cool, because it has to really be in your face. But those stories are there day in and day out.